Nestled deep in the woods, far from the bustle of modern life, was a village known as Blackwood. For centuries, it was a peaceful place, where families thrived, crops grew abundantly, and children played in the fields. But one dark, fateful night, everything changed. The story begins with an ancient mansion at the heart of Blackwood. Old Man Roderick, the village's wealthiest resident, had inherited the mansion from generations before. He was a recluse, rarely seen by anyone, and rumors began to swirl about his involvement in dark magic. The villagers said that at night, strange lights flickered from his windows, and eerie chants could be heard from the depths of the mansion. One evening, a young girl named Elsie, curious about the mansion's secrets, wandered too close. The next morning, she was found at the edge of the village, trembling and incoherent. She whispered of seeing figures in the dark, their faces twisted and unnatural, watching her from the windows. She spoke of shadowy whispers that called her name. The villagers dismissed it as the imagination of a child, but they would soon regret their ignorance. In the weeks that followed, strange things began to happen. Cattle were found mutilated, crops withered overnight, and a thick fog rolled into the village every evening, carrying with it a chill that seemed to seep into the bones of anyone who stepped outside. Worse still, the villagers started to disappear. It began with the young men, those who dared venture too close to the mansion or the nearby woods. One by one they vanished, never to be seen again. Those brave enough to search for them returned empty-handed, save for the occasional strange mark on trees, as if some creature with claws had carved deep gashes into the bark. The village was gripped with fear, and no one ventured out after dark. Old Man Roderick still remained unseen, but the lights in the mansion flickered brighter every night, and the chanting grew louder, almost as if the village itself was being cursed. One stormy night, the village elder, a wise woman named Agatha, decided enough was enough. She gathered a group of the bravest villagers and led them to the mansion. Armed with torches and old protective charms, they pushed open the heavy iron gates and stepped into the overgrown garden. The air was thick with tension, and the silence was suffocating. As they entered the mansion, the air inside felt even colder than the night outside. The walls were adorned with strange symbols, and the smell of decay hung in the air. Agatha led them to the basement, where the chanting was the loudest. As they descended the creaking stairs, their torches flickered, casting long, menacing shadows on the walls. In the dim light, they saw Roderick standing before an altar, his eyes glowing a haunting, unnatural yellow. Around him were the missing villagers, their bodies pale and lifeless, arranged in a circle as if part of some dark ritual. Before anyone could react, Roderick spoke in a voice that seemed to echo through the very bones of the mansion. "You're too late. The village is mine." Suddenly, the walls began to shake, and the ground beneath them opened up. From the darkness below, shadowy figures emerged, the very creatures Elsie had described, their faces twisted with malice. They reached out for the villagers, their claws sharp and cold. Agatha, in a final act of desperation, threw her torch at the altar. As the flames engulfed it, Roderick let out a piercing scream, and the creatures recoiled, but it was not enough. The mansion began to collapse, and the villagers fled, leaving the mansion to be swallowed by the earth. When the sun rose the next morning, the mansion was gone, and in its place was nothing but a barren, cursed land. The fog never lifted from Blackwood, and over the years, the remaining villagers abandoned their homes, leaving the village to rot in silence. To this day, Blackwood Village remains abandoned, with only the howling wind and the occasional whisper of a name to remind passers-by of the darkness that once consumed it. And some say if you listen closely on a stormy night, you can still hear Roderick's voice, calling out from the depths of the cursed ground.